Honorable members, I think it has gone 11:30 on my watch. Is that the time, Mr. Procedural Officer?
That's the time, Honorable Chair. We ready to go.
Okay. Honorable Bartman is here. And I'm just trying to check at the members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts that are present. There seems to be only Mr. Davids, do we have the Auditor General in?
Chairperson, the Auditor General is in, Chairperson. I'm just struggling to connect the Audit Committee Chairperson. He's every time knocking on and I'm letting him in, then it fails. I'm just letting him in now again, it fails, then he just knocks again. So maybe our IT guys, Clarence, if you can just assist in that regard, just with the Audit Committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, honorable members, it has actually gone past 11:30, which was the time of the start of the meeting. What I will do then, let me make use of the opportunity to welcome the members that are present, as well as the Auditor General and the Audit Committee. Now, this is the meeting for purposes of us looking at the annual report as well as the Auditor General report of the Department of Safety. But this first session is going to be with the committee and members of the provincial legislature, as well as together with the Auditor General and the Audit Committee, to first brief us, and thereafter we'll be allowing the departments to come in. Can I give over to you, Mr. Procedural Officer, to check if are there any apologies?
Chairperson, there were no for this meeting. There were no apologies received, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Then can I hand over to the Auditor General?
HOD can the HOD is in chairperson. I just want to see quickly.
And the minister?
The minister not chair, but he's not in. I'm just
I know he was knocking a lot.
yes, he was.
He was here earlier.
I'm just calling everyone in chairperson.
I see Mr. Barnard's hand is up.
Okay, just a quick question. As you're going to be dealing primarily now with the department and the liquor authority, can I then maybe ask to be excused, or would you like me as the for the audit committee of the liquor authority to stay in the meeting?
Look, if there is a pressing need for you to leave, I don't think there'll be a problem. We normally always prefer that everybody stay until the end of the meeting. But if there's a pressing need that we have to attend to, we'll understand.
Okay. Now I'll see if I can attend to the matter offline, but then
If you have to leave, we'll understand.
I'll stay with 1 year. Okay. Thank you.
Is the minister in, Dustin?
No, not yet, chairperson.
Is the
Yes,
HOD?
chairperson, the minister's in.
I'm here, Mr. Chairperson, Honorable
Oh,
Member.
the chair, the
Okay,
honorable
Yes,
minister.
welcome, Minister. We know you've been knocking a lot, but we have still been busy with some internal issues of the committee. And is the HOD in?
Good afternoon,
HOD is in.
Honorable Chair. I am in. I've just put my camera on for a moment.
Oh no, okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I think, honorable members, we are now going to start then with the briefing and the deliberation and the discussion on the annual report and the Auditor General report for the Department of Community Safety, as this meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts was primarily for that. We have already obviously have had our engagement with the Auditor General as well as the Audit Committee. Now we've been joined by the department, represented by the Minister and the HOD, for purposes of looking at their annual report. Now, what I'll do, I want to check if maybe the Minister want to say something before we start and allow members to ask questions, those who want to have questions. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. From my side, I would just say really welcome the interaction with Scopa. We're looking forward to the interaction. We have gone through a very difficult year, as all of us, all departments, to 2020, and we're still going through quite a difficult time. And I think what we basically saying is a number of the risks that you would have picked up. It's really almost,
Sorry, Minister, can you just adjust your screen, because we can only see half your face. We don't want to be as if you are hiding. We know we are not hiding from there. Yes,
Thank you, sir. So what I'm asking, I'm actually just looking forward to the interaction with the committee, with Scopa, and for us to have some real good engagements around Scopa, and really the whole idea of holding us accountable for public funds. I think that's fundamental. And so I would almost immediately give over to my HOD through you, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. HOD.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members. Good afternoon. I think from our side, it has been a very exciting year. As Minister has indicated, it has been a year with many challenges in terms of the pandemic, but then also a year that's been exciting in terms of changes that we are bringing to the department. We're very proud of our clean audit outcome again, and we've just been in a process where we're realigning and repurposing the department to be more service delivery orientated and to deliver service excellence to our communities on an area-based level in line with the safety plan and the safety focus area. So we're excited about the initiatives that we've undertaken and about our plans going forward. So thank you very much, Chairperson. We're also looking forward to the engagement this afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Minister, as well as the HOD. Now, honorable members, having heard and having received those remarks, I'm now going to allow us to have discussions in terms of questions. If you have got questions or point of clarity on the report or of the annual report, and then we are going to start with section C of the report of the annual report, which start from page 79 until page 90. Can I have an indication of members who want to ask questions? I see Honorable Bartman, I see Honorable America. Can we start then in that order? Honorable Ngondlo's hand is up also. Honorable Kama. Can we go then in that order? Honorable America, Honorable Bartman, Honorable Ngondlo, as well as Honorable Kama.
Thank you so much, Chair. From my side, I would like to express my sincere congratulations to the department for once again obtaining a clean audit. I'm growing tired of, congratulations departments on getting clean audits, Chair. It's a regular occurrence. Be it as it may, I'd like to refer to page 81, and that deals with a risk identified by the department in relation to the operational plan with regard to, let me just get hold of that page. It states full operationalization of the safety plan in the context of the weak economy. So the question I'd like to ask, Chair, is that risk identified in terms of a resource constraint that the department may have as a result of the weakening economy? And if so, what would be the impact on the full operationalization of the safety plan? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable America. Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. It's just one question to the Liquor Authority in Part C of the APP, as I've indicated earlier to the Auditor General. And on the APP, it's page 23. It is also pages 21. It is also page 26. And finally, it is also page 29. But I'll focus on page 23 because that is part of the program which was audited by the Auditor General in this financial year. In component 2 of the Liquor Licensing Tribunal, you will see under the audited actual performance for 2016 to 2020, essentially, that the targets there, it all says new, whereas in the 2020-2021 MTEF period onwards, it has percentages for the outcomes of the targets it obviously wants to reach. And I just wanted to find out from the department, the new targets where it says new in the various different years, how were they measured? Because this year's annual report is 2019-2020, and 2020-2021 is only the next financial year which will be audited. So I just wanted to find out what the evidence gathering was in that particular indicators in order to check the output. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Bartman. Honorable Ngondlo.
Thank you, Chair. My questions, Chair, will be around Part C of the Liquor Authority. I just wanted to understand, Chair. One, I think, in as far as the governance issues are concerned, I am aware about the process that was responded to by the Premier as it relates to the institutional mechanism or the location of the Liquor Authority, which at the time, the Premier, I think even in the House, made mention that the matter is under review or there is a discussion about it. I've not picked it up unless I'm making the mistake, if I can get clarity about that particular issue, because I'm not picking it up even if either on the governance or any of the policy sections in the annual report of the Liquor Authority. So I just wanted clarity on that matter, because I remember the Liquor Authority, the Liquor Traders Associations did even make a submission, and we were told that the process with the department that is engaging on that matter. And the second one, Chair, is around, I think, in terms of the governance issues. I see in the annual report again, there is a vacancy of the chair of the Liquor Authority, and I want to understand that, and also I think the CEO, the posts are vacant. By when are these gonna be filled, these posts, and is the current deputy chair and acting chair, because he has signed in both this and the financial statements as the deputy chair. So I'm trying to understand, is he currently a deputy chair and acting chairperson, you know, of the board? And also in that regard, Chair, I see in terms of the economically active population, one would be very concerned about the profile of the board, including, I think, the gender profile of the senior management. And are these issues being considered by the Liquor Authority at this point? So I think those were the questions, Chair, I wanted to raise on this matter. And then also, I just wanted to check, Chair, in as far as the IC in the column, I think on the audit committee, Chair, that there's only one member from the board who is in the audit committee, making him to attend about 9 meetings, I think, with the external members. I just want to understand, is that is it because the other board members at this point, you know, in terms of equitable distribution of work to the committees, you know, there isn't enough capacity or expertise for them to sort of join that particular committee? Because one also, if you look at the number of committees and the number of meetings of Mr. King William, he ends up having to attend almost 23 meetings, which is the highest of all the other board members. So I'm just trying to understand, is it because, you know, I mean, he's overworked there, if I were to look at it in that fashion, that the skill in terms of audit, maybe, you know, he's the only one who possesses as such. Let me stop there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the department. My first question, Chair, is on page 79. At the bottom there, where it talks about the Ethics and Enterprise Risk Management Committee members. In the table there, Chair, I really have a concern in terms of the attendance of meetings of this committee, especially as it relates to, because we see there that when the accounting officer only attended, who is also supposed to be the chairperson of the committee, only attended one, and the chief director of security risk management only attended one meeting. So if the department can really react to those concerns and availability of members and full participation in these committees. The second question that I have, Chair, also on Part C, is on page 81. Firstly, it links to, if you look at the key strategic risks considered and addressed during the year, the second bullet point that talks on the inability of the Western Cape Liquor Authority to be self-sufficient. Now, I just want to check there, Chair, in terms of if I can get a better detail of how this was addressed, and perhaps get an understanding of how the department has addressed it has not impacted on the number or on the outlets that are still in the regulated environment, as the increase in fees and all other penalties would lead to reduction in those that want to be in the or want to be in the regulated space. The second question, Chair, is also on what Member America had asked, perhaps to add, Chair, on the key emerging risk on the same page for the following financial year, when it talks to the full operationalization of the safety plan in the context of the weak economic outlook. And perhaps link this to the question that I asked earlier to the AG and the audit committee, to say, Chair, I don't know if the committee is aware of the reduction in these LEAP officers, as they reflect in this report, that they should have been 3,000, but now have been reduced to 1,000. Perhaps if we can get, Chair, in that, and understanding also whether is it because of this weak economic outlook that they were reduced, because the understanding is that they were budgeted for, but now we understand that it's only going to be 1,000 over the period. And perhaps what control does the province and the department have over the entire process, beyond just throwing in money, and perhaps get updates on the recruitment and functioning of the project officer that we're told about, which is to oversee the process. So if we can be giving a really breakdown of how this is going to operate, and accessibility of the committee to ensure that it performs its oversight role in that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Kama. I'm handing over to the department to give responses. Is it the minister or the HOD?
Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just have a question for clarity, please. The first question, as well as the last questions, were related to the annual report of the Department of Community Safety, but the questions in between referred to the annual report of the Liquor Authority. If we could just be provided with some guidance, Chairperson, if because there are questions on both reports. Are we dealing with the department's report first, or the Liquor Authority's report? Because the Liquor Authority will answer questions related to their report, and we will answer the questions related to our annual report. If we could please be given some guidance in that regard, please. Thank you, Chair.
What we'll do then, Mrs. Pillay, is that first deal with the questions that were directed to the department. When you finish, then I will allow the Liquor Board to answer their own questions.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. I will then attempt to answer some of the questions, but my other colleagues are also part of the meeting, and I will be deferring some of them to the colleagues to provide some additional input as well. So the question that was posed to the department in relation to the full operationalization of the safety plan, I think that was referred to by both the honorable members. So in the past, Honorable Chair and members, the Department of Community Safety had its own deliverables and strategic objectives and indicators in our annual performance plans that were linked primarily to our constitutional and oversight mandate. As well as, for example, our police monitoring, conducting police inspections, holding policing needs and priorities to influence resources, allocation of resources to the Western Cape by the South African Police Service, our relationship with community police forums, etc. But with the launch of the safety plan by the Premier, the department was expected to take on a different type of role that was not necessarily 100% match with the current indicators that we had set for ourselves. So therefore, the risk, because the department has to deliver on the full safety plan. So the Department of Community Safety had in the past not fully completed its transformation and modernization process, which would have seen the department structure fully aligned to the Western Cape Community Safety Act, as well as our other legislative mandates that we have to perform. So therefore, we identified this as one of the emerging risks, because the objective of the safety plan is to halve the murder rate within 10 years. So for us to deliver on the safety plan required us to do things differently. And therefore, what I was speaking about initially was us undertaking a repurposing and a realigning process as a department for us to be fully aligned, that is in terms of budget as well as our organizational structure, to deliver on the mandate in relation to the safety plan. And therefore, we have noted that also in terms of the budgetary constraints that we find ourselves under, we've had to reprioritize our budget to ensure that we fully align to the deliverables of the safety plan. So we have been undertaking that process since the launch of the safety plan so that we could achieve this fully, Honorable Chair and members. So the safety plan is being currently fully institutionalized into the department's indicators and annual performance plan, etc. I would then like to just move over to the question that was linked to the department's oversight over the LEAP deployment and our funding to the city. So I think originally, as Honorable Member Kama has alluded to, there was an announcement that there would be 3,000 LEAP officers that would be deployed. However, due to budgetary constraints, we are able to fund the city for the deployment of 1,000 LEAP officers over the MTF period, and we have provided funding for the initial 500 LEAP officers to be deployed, and we are currently in the process of finalizing our transfer payment agreement and business plan with the city for the additional 500 LEAP officers. The department has a clear monitoring tool in which the city is providing us with weekly updates in terms of the LEAP deployment. There is a business plan in place where the 5 priority areas have been identified for deployment, and the further deployment or rollout of the next 500 would also be linked to the murder stations in the province. And these areas have been identified together with the South African Police Service. That is an integral part of our planning and implementation. The LEAP officers are also working very closely with the SAPs and under the command and control of the SAPs in relation to their operations in the 5 priority areas. We also have a steering committee that is in place that sits on a weekly basis. There are also there's an operational committee that deals with the actual deployment. And this is made up of both the city as well as the Department of Community Safety senior management team. Myself and the Executive Director, Richard Bosman, also communicate regularly. So there's this feedback mechanism and this feedback loop that has been created. The department is also busy establishing 11 area-based teams in the 11 priority areas linked to the city's law enforcement deployment. And we will then establish a further 5 area-based teams within the district municipal space. So we cover the entire province. So Chairperson, I just want to reassure the members that we are in very close communication with the city, and there is constant monitoring that is taking place on all levels. Chair, if you would allow me then to just defer some of the input of our questions to the management support Chief Director, perhaps to answer on the enterprise risk management meetings. I think that was pointed to us in relation to page 79 and the attendance of those meetings. So if I could please then ask CD Govender, Chief Director, Ms. Lindy Govender to cover that. And then I would also suggest, in terms of the Liquor Authority question that was specifically related to the department, which is captured on page 81 of our annual report, I would ask Mr. Simeon George, who acted or was seconded as the, to the Liquor Authority to serve as the acting CEO for a period, that he please answer on the question on the Liquor Authority, please. Thank you, Chairperson. If I can please hand over to Chief Director, Ms. Govender at this stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members. I would like to just point out that in terms of the attendance of the committee meetings, the dates of the committee meetings are set up front for the year. But of course, there has been occasions which was unplanned, where some of the members could not attend on a specific date. But we have always had secundaries in there to attend in their place. Also, just to mention that in terms of the process, there's always assessment or risk assessment sessions with enterprise risk management prior to the ERMCO meetings, where the relevant chief directors are part of those engagements. And then, of course, these meetings are also minuted and reports are shared post the meeting, and the registers are all signed off electronically by the various chief directors post the meeting. So I think this is all just to ensure that everybody is part of the discussions and has knowledge of what was discussed, and input can be provided at various stages. And this is how we then ensure that even if it could happen that a member could not attend a meeting, there's definitely always feedback and engagement both prior and post such meetings. We also have it as a standing item on our monthly management meeting to ensure that risk is discussed regularly and update the risk registers are updated constantly and continuously. These attendance, as I mentioned, or the non-attendance, shall I say, was mostly unplanned, hence the low numbers for some members.
Thank you very much.
Honourable Chair, if I may please hand over to Mr. Simeon George to answer the question on the Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There were a number of questions around the Liquor Authority. I was just not sure which particular one. If I can just add to the attendance quickly, Chairperson, you would notice that in my, it was specifically referred to my attendance of one meeting, while there are 4 normally per year. So if you add the 2, if you just turn the page, you'll see that Mr. David Kutsia was the acting security risk manager, and he would then have attended in my position. Since at that time, we're talking now during the course of 2019, most of 2019, that would have been while I was seconded to the Western Cape Liquor Authority. So if you add those, that would be the 3 meetings, and 1 meeting probably would be in relation to what Ms. Govender refers to as probably incapable of attending. So I'm just trying to bring those two figures together. Thank you very much.
Honourable Chairperson, if I may just guide Mr. George. Mr. George, the question was on the inability of the Liquor Authority to achieve full financial stability, and that is listed on page 81 of our annual report. If you could please just answer that, and then in terms of the new financial model, etc. And then the rest of the questions, I think, can be answered by the Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much for that. Yeah, no, I can speak to that quite a bit. I think we must just go back. There's a white paper on alcohol harms reduction. A key aspect of the white paper, of course, is to ensure that the cost of regulation is borne entirely by the industry. I think that is one of the cornerstones of the white paper. So it means that for the Liquor Authority to function and operate, I think one of the concerns was always been, how do we get the regulation to be borne, the cost of regulation to be borne entirely by the industry. A challenge to that, of course, has been over the past year, especially with COVID introduced over the past year, is that the base from which we were operating was extremely low, meaning that the fee structure already was very low. So the increments that we would be asking for would be considerable increments, and also the counter to that would be the percentage is very high. Taking into account that the kind of licenses are all then considered under almost like one umbrella, whether it be a very small operator or whether it be a very large and profitable operator, the license fee was basically the same as far as all of those categories are concerned. And a particular challenge was then how do we recover enough funds or raise enough funds to cover the entire operations of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. And going forward, that is a challenge that continues. As I've indicated with COVID-19 during last year, a number of representations has been made because businesses were severely affected by the economic reality. And going forward, the question again is, how do we get to the point that we ensure that regulation is ultimately covered in totality by the industry? The arguments, of course, is that we will be revisiting that in the legislative program. I can just briefly allude to that. The minister would then, if we do get the changes through, the minister would then be able to consider models to draw a distinction between the various license possible categories. One, the various volumes as far as the ability or size and of the industry of the outlet is concerned, that could influence the fee payable. And then broadly, I think to ensure that the regulation in terms of enforcement, that is the enforcement of liquor licenses, ensuring that the licenses granted operate within the confines of their license conditions, we have to increase, I think, the cost commensurate by the need to regulate those outlets. And I think those are the important aspects of the legislation that is now being considered. I think ultimately we will get to the point where the total, the income generated, whether it be in terms of fines or whether it be in terms of the fee, will carry the cost of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. Thank you, Chairperson and HOD.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. If I could please then hand over to the Liquor Authority, because hopefully I recalled all the questions, and I do recall all of them, and that the rest are for the Liquor Authority to answer. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Ronnie Kingle, for those that haven't seen the picture yet. I'm the chairman of the Liquor Board as the accounting authority, which is the Liquor Board. And as you've asked the question already, I'm also the deputy chair, so sitting with two hats on. I'll deal with some of the structural matters, and if I may then hand over to the CEO, who will deal with some of the more operational questions that have been raised, and I hope that I've picked up all the questions. Chairman, the first question was about the location of the Liquor Authority, and I guess that refers back to an initiative that was in the original white paper on alcohol harms, that there was one of the recommendations that the Liquor Authority and the board should know is a legislative matter and certainly has been considered. At this point in time, it is the view of the current liquor board that in terms of the challenges that are facing the liquor industry, that having an independent board to deal with matters of can still operate as a dependent body, but that is obviously not within our jurisdiction, and that will be residing with the legislators. And I'll pass back to the minister if he may have some input on that. But certainly from our side, we have a job to do, and we're carrying on doing it to the best of our ability. The second question that was raised by one of the members was the whole issue of the vacancies on the board. Let me deal with that first. First of all, the chairman of the board and one of our members both resigned in June, both due to their own work pressure. And as a result of it, they certainly changed the profile of the composition of the board, as they were both certainly very well connected and certainly very sorely missed on the board with their contributions. The replacement of those two members has taken up until this month, when the two new members have been appointed to the board, and they will be there for one meeting, and then the new board's term will commence in mid-March, and we handed that over to the standing committee, who will obviously handle that process. So hopefully, Chair, the position of the chairperson, I was then appointed by the minister to take on the role as chairperson, and have hopefully fulfilled that responsibility, and hence been able to sign the necessary reports in the absence of the chairperson who had resigned. In terms of the CEO position, that process has been a very stretched out process to try and be able to attract the appropriate candidates at the appropriate level. And with the help of the minister and with the Minister of Finance, we've been given the go-ahead to fulfill that post at the correct level. And our shortlisted process has finished. We're busy doing tests on the individuals, and we hope to be making an offer to the individual before the end of this month. Then that will be approved by the board ASAP once all the hurdles are covered. In terms of the gender profile of management, as you see, that is something that we do look at very carefully of every appointment. And so we have had the resignations of that management team and have fulfilled that with a female candidate, which hopefully will address some of those vacancies. But obviously with a vacancy at the CEO level, that does impact the structure when we get there. But the Liquor Board follows the Western Cape government's recommended structures 100%, and we take guidance from them on that. Chair, the other question that Mr. Tombo asked in terms of the number of meetings attended by myself, obviously in this case, the one member who was on the audit committee, Member Deglon, with her resignation and the change of the chairperson of our independent external members, I was a continuity member from the previous year, So I carried on with that duty to have managed the transition to the new audit committee, as well as obviously it's my area of expertise, having sat and been involved with audit committees for the last 15 years. So I think it's been good value to the board. I hope that the audit committee has assured you of the independence of the audit committee, despite the fact that I was sitting there. And when I was appointed chair, I was sitting in there as an ex officio member, but not as a decision-making member of the audit committee, as recommended by King 4. In terms of the number of meetings, I do appreciate that, but when you're down to 5 members and you've got a spread of committees to deal with, it really was a spread of capacity as well as the mixture of skills and the availability of existing board members. So we got the job done, and the net effect was that perhaps I did attend 21 meetings, but I really do believe that I had the capacity to deal with it, and I had the privilege to be able to help this board continue with its functions. Chair, I think I've covered most of the areas at high level. Perhaps I can hand over to the CEO, Ms. Peterson, to perhaps add any other items or perhaps to respond to any further questions. But before I end, I just want to use the opportunity, Chair, if I may, because our term comes to an end and I don't know if I'll get a chance later, but to say to the Minister and to the HOD that their support over the last year with seconding of players and their own personal support has been greatly appreciated by the board, and the board had asked me to pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. CEO.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members, colleagues. I will now address the question from Honourable Member America related to the LLT, the Liquor Licensing Tribunal targets, as indicated in the annual report. In relation to the question as to, or the statement in relation to the new, in being indicated as a new target, I can confirm that previously only the number of considerations were reported on, and has since then been changed to the percentage of applications considered within X amount of days or within a required timeline, which is to measure actual performance of that indicator. So that is the reason why it was changed and indicated as new for the 16-17, 17-18 financial years, when those indicators were not in the form that they are currently. In relation to the question on the evidence gathering for those indicators, the evidence as provided for the 19-20 financial year was an Excel spreadsheet that records all the decisions as it has been considered. That spreadsheet captures the date when the application was enrolled as well as the date that it was considered. Various information is also captured from the signed minutes of the Liquor Licensing Tribunal when they have these sittings. For the current financial year, the evidence in relation to the specific indicator is a system-generated report. Since the coming into existence of what we refer to as a tribunal management and tracking system, that has allowed us now to be able to provide system-generated reports as evidence for those specific indicators. I also noted the question on the self-sustainability, but I think that Mr. Simeon George has also addressed that question already. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Is there a problem with your camera? Okay.
Apologies, Chairperson. I'm losing your audio. Can you please repeat the question?
No. I was just asking, is there a problem with your camera?
I'm experiencing some connectivity issues, Chairperson, so it requires me to have to switch off the camera so that I can retain connectivity. Otherwise, I'll get disconnected, unfortunately.
No problem.
Apologies for that.
It's such that it's always good to see the face, especially when a person speaks for the first time, but it's not a problem. We understand your challenge. Honorable Barnes, I see your hand has always been up.
Thank you, Chairperson. I thought you forgot about me, but thank you for the opportunity, Chairperson. My question is on page 87. The committee have requested the Department of Community Safety to provide us with a report which highlights the progress made in terms of the implementation of the broad-based Black economic empowerment risk as identified by the AG, as indicated on page 4 of AXA briefing document in the committee. What I would want to know, Chairperson, if the department can furnish us now with an update as to what is happening. Second to that, on the progress report of the 21st of January 2020 on page 89, the progress made in terms of the implementation of the broad-based Black economic empowerment risk, what is the update with that as well? I only have those two questions for now, Chairperson. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Barnes. Honorable America, it's a follow-up.
Thank you, Chair. But I didn't initially know that we're dealing with both reports. So the report, the question to the
which report?
Oh
yes, I did say that let's ask question on all of them so that when they respond, they can respond on all of, because remember we still have to go to section E. We are only dealing with section C now.
Oh, good, Chair. Thank you. My question relates to the fraud and corruption policy, and I noticed that the Liquor Authority has its own fraud and corruption policy. How does it differ from that of the departments? And if it is different, what is so different about it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. HOD, there are those two questions that were asked by those two members. Can we have responses on that?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The question that has been posed to the department, I will refer that question to our Chief Financial Officer to answer that, please. Thank you.
Thanks, HOD, and good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members. Just in response to the paragraph 8.4 in terms of the list of information requested, that was a transversal finding that was raised also by the AG, but in terms of the request from Scoper, it would have been submitted to the committee as it was, but the question is raised really in terms of a transversal finding that was identified by the AG relating to the BBBEE certificates of departments as our procurement relates to sorry, I'm just trying to find the word, as our procurement relates to let's say spend against these type of entities that qualifies. But the answer to the question is actually found on the very next page, Chair, page 90, and where you can see that it has been brought into the annual report of the department, and the departments all within the province were requested to add this heading in the annual reports as it was to give effect to our compliance to the Act specifically. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much for that.
Honorable Chairperson.
Yes.
Apology. If I could refer the next question to the Liquor Authority to answer, please. Perhaps the CEO can answer that on the policy.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think as the policy needs to be approved by the board, I can respond and then the CEO can follow up on that. The policy was based on the Western Cape government fraud and corruption policy, and then approved by the liquor board specific to its needs, but there were no changes in the fundamental principles because they were built on the Western Cape fraud and corruption policy.
Thanks very much for that. Now, honorable members, if there are no further questions on that, can we now move to section E of the report, which is starting on page 133 to 214. We deal with it together with its annexures. Can I get an indication of questions of members who would like to ask questions? Honorable America, Honorable Kama. Yes, can we do that in that? Honorable America?
Thank you, Chair. The two questions that relate to the Liquor Authority, Chair. One being, I noticed that the lease for the building expired on the 31st of March 2020. So the question is whether that lease was renewed with the leasee or leaseor, and if so, was it on different terms and conditions, or are they the same, bar perhaps an inflationary adjustment to the lease amount? Secondly, relates to note 10 that deals with unallocated deposits, and the explanation is that those depositors didn't provide necessary reference number, etc. Now, one would imagine that subsequent to the deposit and the necessary inquiries are being made, that those depositors are identified. What happened in the case of, or did it ever occur that some of these depositors were never identified, and what happened to those deposits that were received? Thank you, Chair. No.
Thanks very much, Honorable America. Honorable Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first question on Part E, Chair, which will also be, I think, a follow-up to the question I asked earlier. On page 180 of the department's report, where it deals with annual appropriations, it is said there, Chair, that when in reference to the 130 million, which was adjusted, an adjustment budget of 2019-2020 to fund the law enforcement advancement plan project in partnership with the city. There, Chair, we see that the department was tasked to oversee the recruitment, training and deployment of 3,000 additional law enforcement officers over a period of 3 years. Now, the HOD, I want clarity, Chair, on the response that was given. I am getting a sense that the HOD is saying it was an announcement by the Premier, but in actual fact, Chair, it does reflect here. So I just need to get an understanding as to at what point, because here this gives an understanding that this was then budgeted for in the adjustments of 2019 and 20, and now at what point was this figure then reduced, and the specific reasons thereof, and perhaps because I asked this question earlier to the audit to the AG's office, and they said no, they do not see any reduction because what reflects in this report is still the 3,000 additional learner law enforcement officers, and no indication of the reduction thereof to then 1,000. Now I want to get an understanding as to at what point was really this reduced and the reasons thereof. That's one question, Chair. The other question that I have, Chair, is on page 188, as it deals with the debts that were written off, and I'm looking at the salary overpayment, and I want to understand, Chair, as to how do these salary overpayments happen, and why is it written off? I do also note that the figure is lower in this financial year under review than the previous one, but really want to get an understanding of how do they happen, and why is it a written off debt. The last question that I have, Chair, is on page 195. When it looks into in 16.1 contingent liabilities, it talks about it says where it starts to say no new legal cases as at March 31st of 2020, and notes that cases with a monetary value of 875,000 were submitted to legal services and have been concluded as contingent liabilities. Now, if we can perhaps, Chair, get a bit more in terms of detail of these cases that we're talking about here. Thanks, Chair, for now.
Honorable Barnes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question is on political office bearers on page 201, key management personnel. What I would want to know, Chairperson, is what are the details of the 2 political office bearers and what is the breakdown of the cost? My second question is on page 203, the disposals, Chair. Vehicles were received via S2442 transfer from the Department of Transport and Public Works and were donated. What I want to know is that what is the number of disposed vehicles and how were they disposed? Second to that, were these given back to the Department of Transport or did the department buy new vehicles during the year under review? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Barnes. Honorable Ngondo.
Thank you, Chair. I think I only have one question, Chair. It's on page 198 to 199. It relates to irregular expenditure. I just want to get a clarity from the department about maybe just providing more details about this irregular expenditure, because I see there, if one looks at the previous financial year and the current one, there has been a very steep increase if you look at the total itself. So that's one question, just to get clarity. What happened there? What was the reason for this jump from 8 to 1,377? And I think in terms of providing also the details, because one can see that the biggest portion of this irregular expenditure has to do with the investigations around PPE, contraventions around PPE, and maybe to just get an indication of the state of this and by when would this be concluded, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Honorable Ngondo. I see the, now, HOD, they are the question. You will decide who's going to answer which one.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I will attempt to answer the first question, and thereafter I'm going to ask our Chief Director Management Support just to give an indication of who will be answering the other questions in relation to the debts written off, the legal cases, etc., etc. So in terms of the first question that Honorable Karma asked, in relation to the LEAP officers. Initially, as I indicated, the Premier had announced a 3,000 LEAP officers, but due to reasons of fiscal constraints as well as affordability, Honourable Chair and members, we are only able to allocate funding to the city of 130 million for 1,000 LEAP officers. That was the initial allocation, and then progressively then over the MTEF period for us to continue and to sustain the deployment of the 1,000 LEAP officers. I hope that that answers that question. And if I can please hand over to the CD management support. Lindy, if you can please then defer the questions to the relevant personnel as well as the CFO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I may then hand over to our CFO, who is also supported by some of our other colleagues in terms of the detailed questions. Thank you, Chairperson. If the CFO may proceed.
Thank you very much, CD Governor, HOD. Honourable Chairperson, so the salary overpayment on page 188 that we are referencing in terms of a question from the member relates to a level 5 worker that as at the end of the financial year, he left and did not alert the department as to reasons why he left. So we paid him, and we had to recover that salary from the individual as a debt. But it also relates to cases where there would be a leave overpayment, where a person would go on leave and it would only be picked up afterwards that, you know, the person had already taken all his allocated leave for the period, and then we'll reclaim that leave as well as leave without pay. So those are generally the bigger cases in which we recover or in which salary overpayment instances will happen. In terms of, sorry, I'm just getting to the questions, and please remind me if I miss anything. From on page 198 with regards to the irregular expenditure, if members and Chair can remember that that lockdown level 5 was declared in the latter half of March 2020. This was still the last week of the financial year. We had to procure emergency personal procurement equipment for our frontline staff, which was the security officers deployed at the Tygerberg Hospital. And while necessary regulations were given by National Treasury, they were vague. We looked at the procurement, and there was unfortunately a trade-off that we had to move, that we had to consider in terms of getting the equipment to our staff timeously, because they were already being deployed at the hotspot areas versus compliance with national treasury regulations, and in using the emergency delegations of the PFMA, we then rather went out and bought the equipment, and the finding by the AG in terms of the irregular expenditure was that the prices were inflated. We did test the market, but could not get anywhere near to the prices as recommended by National Treasury at the start of the lockdown period, when everyone else was also entering the market for PPEs. So that has followed a process of condonation by the HOD, and it is being and it is reported as such then in the financial statements. The question with regards to key management personnel on page 201, we had our MEC, political office bearers was 2, so we had our MEC at the time, Mr. Dan Plato, who was with us and who left us during the time period, and then we also had our now Premier Alan Windy, who also joined us for a stint of about 6 months during this part of the financial year. So the 2 political office bearers would then be the MEC Plato and the then MEC Alan Windy as well. In terms of the vehicles on page 203, these were vehicles that were procured through the transversal contract of GMT, and it was 4 Amarok vehicles, which was then donated to to City of Cape Town, and then also to various other district and local municipalities in support of the establishment of the K9 units within those areas. So it was funding that was received specifically for transfer to the local municipal level, and in support of that we procured these Amaroks and then donated it for that purposes of establishment of K9 to support them in terms of that. I'm not sure whether I missed anything. I'm not sure whether I've missed anything, Chair, HOD.
Was everything covered, HOD?
Honorable Chair, I see Ms. Govender has her hand up. If you would allow her to come in, please. Thank you very much, CFO.
Mr. Govender?
Thank you. Maybe just to guide the CFO, there was a question outstanding on the detail of the cases as mentioned in contingent liabilities.
The legal cases, yes. Thanks, Lindy. CFO?
Thank you, HOD, CD Govender. Yes, so there are 11. This is as at financial year end. So as at the 31st of March 2020, in terms of the note 16.2, 11 pillar cases under investigation. We raise it as a contingent liability, Chairperson, because until the person's application in terms of this, let's say, process is approved, we cannot recognize the expenditure or any action that relates to it at the time. So these were cases that were still under review, and we recognizing it as a possible liability contingent on the outcome of the application itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CFO. You know, yes, see the chairperson of the liquor board is on, and I see just on is also Sandy Sokwabe.
Yeah. Chair, thank you. Yes, there are two questions relating to the liquor board. Mr. Gwabi can certainly answer both questions, unless the CEO wants to deal with the lease matter, but I'll hand over to them. They're right on top of both those two issues.
Okay. Mr. Gwabi? Oh, who's going to respond?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll respond on the matter pertaining to the WCLA lease, and then I will hand over to our CFO, Sandiso Gwabe, to answer the question on Note 10 related to the unallocated deposits, and that's in order, Chair.
Okay.
In relation to the first matter on the WCLA lease, it is correct that the WCLA's lease has expired, the original lease agreement, on the 31st of March 2020. In order to facilitate the ACM process for the conclusion of a new lease, and based on various opinions that were obtained from both Provincial Legal Services as well as Provincial Treasury, in allowing us to embark on an independent ACM process for the conclusion of a new lease, a first addendum to the original lease agreement was concluded for the extension of the lease for the current landlord. The period for the conclusion of that addendum was dated 1 April 2020 up until 30 November 2020, with an escalation rate as per the lease agreement. There's a clause in the lease agreement that makes provision for that. And due to the fact that the ACM process was in its final stages and is currently busy, we are busy concluding that process for a new lease. A second was required for the time period 1 December 2020 until 31 March 2021. So that is the current status in terms of the lease for the WCLA. I'll now hand over to the CFO, and he can address the latter question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Letitia, and good afternoon, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. In terms of page 112 and note 12 of our financial statements, we've got an amount of unallocated deposits of 1.3 million. In terms of that amount, if none of the depositors come to the authority in terms of indicating what the money was for, claiming the money, and a period of 3 years lapses without any follow-up on that amount, the amount would then lapse in terms of the Prescription Act, in which the depositor would no longer have a claim on that amount, and it would then be recognized as revenue once the prescription period lapses. So that's how we're handling those unallocated deposits. Many of them are relating to applications that the prospective license holders intend to lodge with the authority, wherein they pay the amount up front, and by that time they don't know what reference to use. But upon lodgement of the application, then the person comes with the proof of payment and say, I paid 2 months ago while I was preparing the documents. That unallocated deposit that reflects there is in respect of this allocation. I've got proof. Then we're able then to allocate it. However, if that does not occur and the prescription period lapses, then the amount after the period of 3 years becomes revenue for the authority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, are there any follow-up questions? If there are no follow-up questions, honorable members, is there anything that you, maybe the audit committee would like to say? I think the chairperson has left of the audit committee.
Mr. Chair, I'm here. I'm fine. Okay. I've got nothing further to add, except to congratulate the department once more on a very good performance from the financials and obtaining a clean audit. And I'm also pleased that the thrust towards service delivery intensification is foremost, and wish the department well in enhancing service delivery even further.
Thank you. AG?
Thank you, Chairperson. We've got nothing from our side. We covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. HOD?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Yes, is there anything that you want to say? We are concluding the meeting.
Okay, just to say thank you very much, Chairperson. I would also like to echo what Mr. Kingwell has said. Us working very closely with the Liquor Authority, and we do appreciate the support that has been provided by the CEO as well as the board of the Liquor Authority, and want to also congratulate them on their clean audit status. And just to say thank you to the committee for your questions this afternoon and your engagement. And we are looking forward to presenting our new look department's annual report at our next sitting. And then also just lastly to say thank you to Minister Fritz and the department's personnel, the chief directors, CFO, and the rest of the team for their hard work always. So thank you, Chairperson.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start off by saying, firstly, thank you to both the Audit Committee, the AG, to all our staff, members that ensure that we get a clean audit almost repeatedly. And then I want to say to the SCOPA members, honorable members serving on SCOPA, for thank you for your scrutiny, and thanks for the kind of questions and interactions that we have on a regular basis. And I think it's only through that we will really, Mr. Chairman, be able to fight any form of corruption, any form of anything that creeps in, because as human beings, it always happens to us. Very fallible. So let us be kept, all those checks and balances be put in place so that we can all stay on the straight and narrow and move forward so that the resources can get to the people that need it most. I want to thank everyone for allowing us and for affording us the opportunity. And I want to say a very, very special thank you to the Western Cape Liquor Authority for always maintaining the kind of independence, although they kind of link to us in a very, very particular way. And I want to also say to Letitia Peterson, the acting CEO, thank you for her role. And I know she's going to be the outgoing acting CEO. And to Mr. Kingwell, I want to say thank you for the work to him and the whole board. Thank you for a great job that you people are doing. What Parliament decides, we never know whether you're back or not. So great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. The Minister, thank you very much for availing yourself to come to the meeting. Also to HOD, thank you very much, HOD, to you and your fellow department members that have accompanied to come and make presentation to this committee. Also to the Audit Committee as well as to the Auditor General. Thank you very much for always being available as a dependable ally in our quest to try and make our responsibility of holding the executive and the structures of Parliament to account to us. Thank you very much for assisting us in that. Some of the questions we might be asking to you, it's not necessary to try to catch you up, is to try to make sure that we are actually playing our role and our responsibility as members of the Standing Committee on Public Account. Thank you very much also for participating in the meeting. Now, I think we have come to the end of your role in the meeting. we would like then to excuse you so that we can continue as the committee with other work of the committee. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members.
Pleasure, pleasure. Honorable members, now as we are rounding up our meeting of SCOPA for purposes of holding the Department of Community Safety to account to us, we have listened to the questions, we've put questions to them and we've listened to the answers, and we've now come to a point whereby we must actually have a resolution. Ade can have an indication of proposal for resolution. Okay, if there is none, that means that then we are, okay, I see the hand of Honorable Kama. Honorable Kama.
Thank you, Chair. Mine, Chair, was to really, I don't know, maybe members can assist me here with this question that I was repeatedly asking. Because if you look in the document, Chair, I understand that the HOD says this is on that the number was reduced and whatnot. But if you look at the document and listen to the response that I got from the AG, is that they do not see any reduction. So as they read the report, they see a reflection of a 3,000 law enforcement officers that the department must recruit for a period of 5 years. But the response from the HOD is that, yes, the announcement from the Premier was that it's going to be 3,000, but because of financial constraints, they had to reduce that. I understand that part, Chair. So I think maybe as part of the request for information, it's to understand as to at what point, because the report as it stands, it still reports on 3,000 law enforcement officers. So I then again wanted to get an understanding, because they are financial contributions that have been made in that regard, and what is reflected in this financial year is the 130 million, and it says it's towards the 3,000, unless if the department is saying the number was only reduced after this financial year, hence it's not reflecting that the number of the law enforcement officers is being reduced. Because I want to get to an understanding, as the AG's office was saying, that if there was a budgeting for a certain number of, like in this case, a number of 3,000 officers, and now it has been reduced, then there needs to be accountability of the funds that were then budgeted for the number which has then been reduced. I don't know if Chair, I may get an assistance in that, perhaps even from the committee, whether it can be a request for further information on the issue of the 3,000, at what point, and because I also want to understand what would have been the committee's involvement in reducing the number, understanding that in the adjustments and budgeting process, the committee had voted for that budget, which was linked to the initial 3,000 law enforcement officers. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Misul. Maybe as a way of trying to assist you, can we maybe say then that we'd like to request the department to furnish us the information as to how many recruitees have been recruited so far in terms of that program? Will that assist you? Honorable Kama, will that assist you?
Yes, that would partly assist, Chair, but in terms of the reduction, I don't think that would assist, because what we'll get
So we
with
should
that question
maybe
is
then
just
ask a direct question, then they say that by how many has the number been reduced in the budget?
yes, Chair, and the budget thereof in that regard. Thanks.
Okay. Well, sure. I think the procedural officer has caught that. Honorable Ngonjo.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is on the board and the senior management equity issues. Can I request, Chair, that we request updates from the Liquor Authority as it relates to this matter? Because I think what has experienced is that when these matters gets to be raised, you know, you are always told that it's a matter, we're taking it serious, we will look at it when there are vacancies, you know, and all of that. Comes the next financial year, you find exactly the same situation. So I'm just requesting, Chair, that we request update on how the matter is being attended to, you know, in this current financial year, so that by the next report, at least we can be abreast of efforts made to correct the situation.
Sorry, Chairperson, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Chairperson.
Sorry, IT, can you just assist the Chairperson just to unmute the Chairperson? Clarence him, please, so that we can hear what the
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, my
Oh,
apologies.
there,
I've
Chairperson,
muted.
thank
My
you.
apologies. My apologies. No, I was just saying that then if there are no further resolution, that means that has brought us to the end of the meeting. Let me make use of this opportunity, honorable members, to thank you very much for your participation as well as your endurance and your patience during these meetings, because it's still going to be a very, very hectic week. Thank you very much. The meeting is closed.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.